With your help, we can continue to fight for freedom, reach new audiences, and bring important information to the public free of charge. This is not possible without your generosity. Join our quest for the truth and our freedom and donate today, telling it as it is. This is today's News Talk, The World Today.
And we now have action. Thank you very much. Nice to have your company. This is the Protagonists show number 2, and we are now ironing out all the faults, although I'm still here, so maybe they haven't all disappeared. Before we get into our guest, our show today is racism rife in our parliaments? Now, for too long, those making our laws have received insufficient scrutiny, despite their insistence that they are governing for us all. This is simply not the case. Recent examples, for example, are pertinent to our topic. The Victoria Parliament recently passed the Statewide Treaty Bill, which will divide Victoria by race, granting special privileges to the minority, including reparation payments. Here's some money for you. Here's some money for you. You were here a few hundred years ago, that sort of stuff. But it's happening all over the world, just happening everywhere. An alternative governance structure has been created, by the way, in Victoria with sweeping powers, significant funding with no mandate and no accountability. It doesn't matter that Australians voted overwhelmingly against this kind of racial division in a 2023 referendum. But they still went ahead, didn't they? The Labor government still did what they wanted. And there's a common thread here. I think the Labor governments don't care. They are going to do what they want to do. And we'll talk about that shortly. In addition, public land transfers under state and federal laws are occurring in secrecy, granting titles to a small number of families of corporations with no legal recourse. In the UK, British citizens are becoming accustomed to a two-tier justice system, a two-tier policing and overt discrimination in favour of illegal immigrants. There has been no justice for British girls raped by Muslim gangs and it's been covered up over decades. When will they start? Probably never. The way they're doing it, they're hiding something. It's so obvious for us all to see. While leading politicians smear critics of mass immigration as racist and extremist by the far right, why is racism acceptable for our parliamentarians? They're there to rule, to govern for us. They work for us. And at the moment we have this abomination of governments with it, and they Labor. Look at the federal government in Australia; it's a Labor Party. Look at the one in the federal government in the UK, again Labor. Look at state governments in Victoria; that's a Labor Party. Look at the until we had a recent election in Queensland, it was Labor, and they pushed through things, just incredible things. My guest, 3 wonderful guests. We're going to talk about this, and it's an uncomfortable subject, but it needs to be talked about because there is so much that is being swept under the rug. My first guest is Trevor Coult, MC, a decorated British Army veteran who served in the Royal Irish Regiment and is creating a storm on his socials and also on YouTube. Obviously, it's what people want to hear and see. Trevor, thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks, Mike. It's always good to be on your show.
Yeah, love it. Melinda Richards, an old colleague from the TNT days, and not so old. Sorry about that, Melinda. I'll slap me down later on. But Melinda Richards is the Managing Director of the Richards Group of Companies, an author and a libertarian. Belinda, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
And Jordan Ditloff, libertarian also. He's a libertarian advocate for capitalism and civil liberties, free speech, free humans, free money. How I wish. Jordan, thank you for joining me.
Thank you very much for having me again.
Look, just first of all, the topic is racism rife in our parliament? So I just want to go from one to the other here. Trevor, what do you think?
Well, here, yeah, of course it is. A lot of politicians today, believe it or not, are racists, and you might not want to hear that, but they are. You've got to bear in mind that over here, the UK is a Christian country, but we are so weak and so woke that we have taken a knee to everything, every ideology, every sort of class, and we've invited everyone in. And what they've done is because our government have sort of through thousands upon thousands of, say, and I'm going to say it, Africans in certain areas in London, what you will have then is someone in London stand up for Parliament, and everyone that's been invited in votes that person in, and all of a sudden you have a party which doesn't actually care about our local values and starts to care about different types of ideologies, and it does become quite racist. But do you know what? I'm sick to death of TV, social media, celebrities all saying that white people are racist. And the truth is, white people aren't running around stabbing people and cutting people's heads off. These people are evil. And I'm sick to death of it, actually, Mike. I'm sick to death of having to say, I'm sorry, having to I don't watch my words. If I offend someone, so be it. It doesn't mean anything to offend people. And you know what? The more people I offend, it's them that take offence, not me that hands it out. So, yeah, Parliament is racist. And you know what? So is the mainstream media.
You have to watch out, though, for saying hurting words in your country. I mean,
I don't care, Mike. I don't care who I have.
They're going to get you. They're going to slap you down, stand you in the corner with looking, with a funny hat on, looking into the corner because you've said hurting words. You know what? It truly is. It's pathetic, isn't it? It's absolutely pathetic. We need to all act like we're adults, but we seem to, in many cases, welcome the government into our lives to tell us how we are to behave moralistically, and I think it's just terrible. What do you think, Belinda? What do you think we have an overt, probably, do you think it's bubbling under, or do you think it's overt, the racism that I can see it, because if you look at what's happening throughout Australia right now, look at Victoria, for example, I always thought that we were equal, and we are no longer equal, are we?
No, and it's really interesting because we are hot on the heels of the UK and Ireland and Scotland. We are catching up very rapidly, and we do absolutely 100% have racism in our parliament. And one of the really interesting things is that I think the racism is coming from three distinct areas. We have racism against white people from the Islamic community, from the Muslims, and that's coming out very clearly by a couple of our parliamentarians. And we also have people who are pretending to be black, like we have a parliamentarian right now pretending to be a black person. And she is also, so it's from the black sort of side of things, is also overtly against white people. And then you have this sort of undercurrent of the Asian community, which not many people talk about in Australia, but that is absolutely there. There is definitely a pushback against white people from the Asian community in Australia. So, there's overt and covert, and we're really seeing the overt very clearly, but I just don't think that we can ignore the fact that we're getting a lot of different types of people in Parliament, and white people are being marginalised. We are now being underrepresented. And because you have white people in Parliament, but they're on the left side of politics. So you've got this two-tier policing, and you've got this kind of treaty, and you've got this race-based politics now. And it really is marginalising white people in Australia quite significantly, and we are catching up. We are catching up to Great Britain very rapidly.
Yeah. And what about Jordan? Jordan Ditloff. In fact, your town in Ballarat created a ruckus just a while ago when a bunch of farmers chased the Prime Minister down with their tractors down the main street, and it was like a military operation, Trevor. But
It was a proud day to be from Ballarat. Ballarat, as you may know, has a long history that it shares with the Irish prospectors and miners. The first rebellion, or the one of the first rebellions over property rights and paying too much tax, which is a glorious thing to be known for. The union movement, of course, have co-opted the Southern Cross, but we should remember that it was Chartists and people standing up for their property rights and feeling like they were paying too much tax that stoked the Eureka Rebellion. But the thing that struck me as you were introducing the segment, you were talking about this being flowing from Labor governments, and I hate to be the bearer of bad news in an already bleak landscape, but I regret to inform you here in the People's Republic of Victoria, this is very much a bipartisan position. I was very, very dismayed. The Liberals said, "Oh, we're going to repeal treaty if we get elected." And I should note that at this point, it's a very, very big if, despite facing what is absolutely the worst government this state's ever seen, on what should be its death knell in its now late third term of office. But what they didn't say, and what the fine print revealed when they released their back of the envelope, hastily scribbled on the back of a napkin policy in response to the treaty being announced, is they said, we recognise we need to close the gap. We're going to abolish treaty, but we're going to put forward a new government department called First Nation Victoria, and that's going to be how we distribute. And literally their wording was, this is how we're going to be making sure that all the funding gets to the people that need it. So the Liberal Party here in Victoria is absolutely, and I'm confident if it were to be put to them again, the federal government under Susan Ley would say the same thing. We have a Liberal Party, a so-called opposition, who is now in lockstep and accepting the terms of these debates and the framing that's being put to them by their political enemies. And as a final note, I'd say that I actually don't think the community in general is particularly racist. I think Victorians don't necessarily see each other in racial terms, but our parliamentarians have drunk the Kool-Aid. They didn't get the memo that the woke mind virus is in retreat. They're far, far out to the left and dug in, and they're going to die on that hill. So I think racism is absolutely entrenched in our parliament. And I think John Ruddock said it best during his election campaign when he was successfully elected to the New South Wales Upper House. He said, politics and policy should be colourblind.
Yeah, I think Trevor, whatever happened to governments working for the people? They have this. I mean, the UK has always had a bit of a toughness about it, jolly good show, old chap. But you've got the Ashes about to start here in Australia. That'll be slapped out of them in no time. But getting back to politics, though, we have your government at the moment, not your government, but they are, because I don't think you would have voted for them, but they are destroying your company. There is two sides. It's the illegal immigrants or those that practice Islam. You don't have to be of any colour, by the way, because Islam, in my opinion, does not suit the West, doesn't fit in. But you have two laws, basically, one for the, as we would say in the classics, the white honkies, and the other one for the others, which is just those who practice Islam. Nothing against Islam, but it's a very hard religion or culture to fit into Western society. And your government seems to be bending over backwards to trash what made the UK a great nation into, at the moment, it looks like chaos and like a bunch of kids running around in the schoolyard. What do you think about that? Am I spot on, or will I be shot?
Do you want me to intervene now, Mike? Because you've actually just nailed our country in a little bit of a sermon there. But Labour got in through the failure of the Tories, and let's not forget, the Tories were only fixing things that Labour did. Now Labour's fixing things that the Tories did. It's the two-party system, and it's now about to change. Basically, our politicians, they've given up, basically, because they know that they're in for a short period of time, and while they're in there, they line their own pockets. And what's the best way to line your own pockets? If you're Labour Party and you've gone in and you've blamed everything on the Tories, and there's a black hole. I mean, Rachel Thieves, as I call her, the Chancellor, said there's a 20 billion black hole. Yet while she told us there's a 20 billion black hole in our economy and we needed to fix it. But so far, Labour have given away £127 billion, and we're still trying to fix this black hole. Now, everything's going up. The cost of living is going up. It's impossible to buy anything here anymore. I mean, my own council tax is going up where I live. But at the same time, my council's just given away £500,000 to give yoga classes, driving lessons, and short breaks to asylum seekers. Yet we're going. I mean, it's got to the stage now where a lot of people are refusing to pay their council tax because the cost of living is too high for everyone. But we're giving away too much money. As well as that, you'll find that our Labour Party have caused so much damage. I mean, last week there was a manhunt because they let out the wrong person. Our Labour Party have let out over 35,000 criminals, and this is crazy, to free up space for criminals. I mean, you've let out 35,000 criminals to free up space for more criminals. That doesn't even make sense. Why can't they build another jail? The place is falling to bits. Knife crime around London is through the roof. I mean, London's a dangerous place to even go anywhere near today. I mean, you've mobile phones being stolen, people being stabbed. You've got people being raped in broad daylight in train stations along the beach. It's shocking. But Labour need to leave, because right now, the only people voting for Labour now, believe it or not, and this is a new thing I only found out about 2 days ago, illegal immigrants and asylum seekers under the European Court of Human Rights have a right to vote for their own lives. So everyone that's arriving and being put into London is going to vote for Labour. So the only one that votes for Labour now is the criminals, asylum seekers, right, and illegal migrants. They are Labour's friends. The whole country, the latest poll said that 77% of the population now have turned to reform. So Tory only have like 6% now, and they were the government last year. They only have 6% of public vote. The whole place is shocking, Mike.
I think with the Tories, I think it's a sympathy vote, and that's from friends and family.
Yeah, probably.
That's about it. And that's where your military training could have come in handy, but I won't go there because I won't leave the office otherwise. Melinda, you've studied federal politics, and you see that our government at the moment, the Labor Party, which is basically, I mean, they're both having the bromance with Keir Starmer, love each other, although Donald Trump's sort of in the middle at the moment, in the big beautiful bed. It's a terrible thought, isn't it? But anyway, you've got to do what you have to do, and I do love a spit roast. No, I don't like the spit roast. There's something there which Trevor's, he can work out what I'm saying. I'm just thinking, though, the Labor Party at the moment in Australia, and federally speaking, if you look at Redlands Council, they're fighting tooth and nail to stop a whole chunk of land being given back to the Indigenous folk. Now, the Redlands Council have got to find millions upon millions upon millions to try and protect and stop all these great ovals and land and beaches being given away back to the Indigenous inhabitants of our country. Having said that, they can also defend and or prosecute their case with the help of just under $7 million from the federal government. So what we have is the federal government is doing all it can to, one, destroy Australia, but secondly, to create this division between the European settlements or the everybody else, and then for the Native Title Act, it's the Indigenous people, and you have two different groups. How bad is that? Because I go back to what I was talking to Jordan about. We are one nation. We are one nation. We are not two.
Yeah, well, we're not anymore. I mean, we have spent a very, very long time creating this division, and I've got to say, I'm listening to what Trevor's saying, and there's a lot of issues going on that we are following suit. We are also falling apart at the seams. Our falling apart, though, seems to be happening at the rate of a death of 1,000 cuts. In terms of the Aboriginal industry, I call it an Aboriginal industry, because what we're talking about here is Aboriginal corporations. So what we're not talking about full-blood Aboriginal people who live in remote communities. We're talking about corporations who want land grabs so that they can then do deals with different industries. So they are getting money and power through corporations. And the Aboriginal industry in Australia, when you look at the multiplier effect, around the land grabs, the corporation, and then all of the people that are consulting and trying to help the Aboriginal community, all the politicians, all of the businesses connected to it. It's worth billions and billions and billions of dollars. So our society is now being divided by race because it's not only ideological, but now it's all to do with money. And there is a lot of money involved in the Aboriginal industry. So our land rights and our property rights are being absolutely hammered at the moment. We are absolutely under siege. And, it's almost too late to go back. I mean, we've already given away so much. And I know Jordan will be on all over this topic in terms of land rights and property rights as well. The Libertarian Party in Australia are very, very big on this topic. And a lot of people are starting to wake up. They're waking up to the fact that land is being literally swept out from underneath communities, local governments, local regional communities, absolutely under siege.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Trevor, actually, before I get to you, Trevor, on the question about the UK, Jordan, you live in the snake pit. I'm originally from a place called Mildura, which is in the Mallee. And
yes. Although Mildura has the beautiful benefit of being as far away as it is as possible to be from Melbourne and still be in Victoria. So that is
you're the
at
first
least something.
Now you're the first person to use the word beautiful and Mildura in the same sentence. But anyway, that's just from a local's point of view. By the way, Trevor, if you were back in the army, your Mildura is very much like. That's like parts of I won't say that I'll get shot, and you'll have to defend me, which might be really bad for you. But I'm just thinking about in Victoria, the Victorian government is just giving away great chunks of land to besides its renewable push, but look at what it's giving back to the Aboriginals. And by the way, I think that you can. By the way, anybody can butt in whenever you want to, but I think though I think because when we buggered up the Aboriginal for many years, we did not do the right thing. We'd give them a chunk of money. The white folk from Canberra or from each cap city would tell them how they should live. None of them took any time out to show a bit of respect and to let them decide on what they're doing. To give, though, all of our land, an enormous amount of land and facilities, like in a place called Tubeer in Queensland, Tubeer, small town, it has 10 acres, and the rest of it is owned by the Aboriginal Corporation. I mean, 10 acres? So I've probably got half a football field. So Jordan, how do Victorians feel about this? Or are the Victorians going, oh yeah, okay, yeah, we'll be looked after? What's the feeling from Victoria towards the Allen government?
Well, that's a great question. I just wanted to quickly touch on something that Trevor mentioned, and it's that this would be almost viewed as sort of a indulgence, like let them do what they're going to do. If we were in good times and if we were in the land of milk and honey, we'd be having a very different conversation. But in Victoria, the hourly bill for interest alone, so not even principal on the debt that the Victorian government owes, is over $100,000 an hour.
Oh.
So that is millions a day, literally 2.4 million a day, and that was during the election campaign. It's probably increased since then. And we're at that same time creating a First Nations infrastructure fund. We're creating, as you say, almost this second tier of landed bureaucracy through the Aboriginal landowners corporations. And in essence, I think for the average Aboriginal person in Victoria, you're seeing responsibility for your affairs shifted from essentially parliamentary bureaucrats to racially chosen bureaucrats, and it's just replacing one bureaucracy with another. And I think that the quality of life for the average Aboriginal person in Victoria will probably not change very much. It's just swapping the hands of the master. And a great example of a situation where you've really got a huge conflict between the rights and interests of the local community and the rights and interests, so-called, of the local Aboriginal landowners group is the case of Mount Arapiles. Now, that's west of Ballarat, so out past Horsham, and a little town called Nadamuck. And that town, prior to all of this madness beginning, was earning millions of dollars a year in small business and tourism, and has some of the most amazing free climbing landscape in the world. Mount Arapiles is internationally acknowledged, and we get tourism from all across the world, or did, until 80% of those climbing routes were shut down in favour of essentially locking Victorians and anyone from around the world out. And we've got a situation here where the local community in Natimak don't have a lot else, and they've grown up for generations themselves, many of them, building businesses, having a livelihood, and really having a huge feeling of connection and almost spiritual connection to the land, to Mount Arapiles, that I think, while it would be different to the connection that the First Peoples, Aboriginal people of Victoria would have a different connection, but it's a connection that isn't lesser, and it shouldn't be cut out in favour of. And libertarians are all about protecting the rights of others, but when you have a conflict of rights, and when you have rights that might clash, you should try to actually deconflict those rights and try to work out how everyone can actually exercise the connection and rights they have, especially if it's not to the detriment of each other. If you've got a group of people who are not Aboriginal people, but who have been living in the area, caring for the land, having a huge economic and spiritual and familial connection with the land, then why can't those people be joint custodians? Why do we have to all of a sudden lock out the people of Natimak, many of whom, I should add, were previously very left-wing, very Greens-oriented almost voters? And I visited there during the election campaign. I saw the mountain. I met with the people who are there and who are affected. And they're shocked and they feel betrayed. They've not been consulted with by Parks Victoria. They've been essentially cut out, and they're almost being treated as racists, as second-class citizens, when all they're asking for is for the space to be shared, not shut. And I think that that's not an unreasonable request. And I think the fact that this is being approached like a bloody-minded us and them, where the government's actually entrenching and creating and fostering racial division, rather than saying, here's an opportunity for us to all work together. So I think the consequences on the ground are all too real.
A lot of Aboriginal people feel the same way. This is the thing that we are really misunderstanding deeply in Australia. A lot of full-blood Aboriginal people do not want the division. And that's why they also voted no in the Voice. They're so arrogant, and they want to divide us by race, and they want to make all these assumptions about what Aboriginal people want. But at the end of the day, they need to start listening to Aboriginal people who actually do want to be joint custodians in many of these areas. And, Mount Warning, and I know that because we went and climbed Mount Warning. They've shut Mount Warning in northern New South Wales, exactly the same thing. But the Aboriginal community there are very, very upset because they are saying, we want everyone to enjoy this land. We actually want to be joint custodians. So you see, I think sometimes we also let the bureaucracy in the government, we forget in Australia, and I think in Great Britain it's also the same thing, is that we've spent a few decades forgetting that the government should be serving us and listening to us rather than serving the government and blindly following every single government direction.
Just on that, and you mentioned Mount Warning. Trevor, Mount Warning is a magnificent piece of land, great chunk of mountain that is in the Tweed area of New South Wales on the east coast of Australia. Absolutely gorgeous. And they actually shut it down because of COVID. I don't know why that was, but anyway.
They didn't reopen it because they didn't want to maintain it.
They haven't reopened it.
And they said, we're not opening it because the Aboriginal community don't want it.
No,
and
I've got to do something.
They just didn't want to,
But what they've done, though, because we used to call it Ayers Rock. What a great... I just don't feel good. Ayers Rock, now called Uluru. And that was under the auspice of a Aboriginal foundational business. And so therefore you could only climb certain parts of the rock. You couldn't climb it basically anyway, because it was sacred. It was very, very sacred. Well, looks like it's been sold off to an overseas company who will be allowing everybody to climb the rock. Now, just tell me, Trevor, you're looking out in, if it was sacred, that run by or administered by an Aboriginal corporation, no, you can't climb that rock because it's very sacred. But however, we've just sold it to an overseas company and they're going to allow everybody to clamber over it. Do you think there's a slight distortion of how it should be?
Sounds like your government's got the same sort of assholes as our government, where
We do.
basically you've got a lot of politicians running around with white guilt, usually leftists running around with white guilt on behalf of our ancestors who think that they're doing the right thing. But what you'll find is these people that sell things off, I've seen it with generals. You basically have these politicians that get in-house and they want to do everything, and then they fall into this sort of regime of dictatorship where they can't vote for certain things. And all of a sudden they all become a little bit warped. And then they have white guilt. And the way you get around white guilt is you employ buffoons of different colours that have no qualifications, but they can sit at the top of a table as your sort of tick in the box sort of person. And then as they're at the top and they're buffoons sitting there that don't know what to do because they've been put in as a DAI sort of check, they sit there and then they make phone calls to friends and go, I can get you this job and this job. And after about 2 years of these buffoons at the top, you find that all the key positions are taken up as DEI box tick things, and then they don't know what to do. It's a bit like in Africa where they set fire to all the white people and then put people in the farm and all the crops die who don't know how to do anything. So these are box ticking exercises. It sounds like your government is just filled with the same idiots as our government for the time being. And what you'll have is the people will get so annoyed and so angry at what's going on that they will all be labelled as far right because they'll go for a guy who doesn't want any of this. And then the public is starting to call fascists and far right. Like we have at the minute where mums and grannies and daughters are out saying protect women, and the mainstream media are calling it far right protests.
Sorry to say, Trevor, you're a bit of an oracle because that's exactly what's happening here as we speak. So if you hadn't been paying attention, you don't need to. You've got it under control.
You've got idiots in your government.
But I'm just thinking though, if that doesn't smack of racism, what does? And government is supposed to work for us. They're supposed to work for the citizens or constituents, and they're not. But I tell you what else is very shocking, and again, to me, it smacks of people being guilty, also of racism, is the grooming gangs or the rape gangs in the UK. I mean, do you think, Trevor, they will ever get around to having the inquiry because they still haven't organised someone to run it? And this has been going on for how long? And it is a cover-up. They are protecting people. In any civilised society, if gangs rape young girls, they go to jail, and you go to jail immediately. But unfortunately, it seems to have been embraced by those in power and the law enforcement. They also embraced it. Let us join in. So if they do go ahead with the grooming inquiry, or the grooming gang inquiry, or the rape gang inquiry, one, do you think they will? But secondly, if they do you think we're going to see a lot of very senior people's heads roll?
Well, I think in general, we'd all like to see it be pushed through, but I don't think it will be at the minute. And the reason why it won't be is because a lot of these, now don't get me wrong, white people aren't innocent. There are people out there that carried heinous crimes. But let's look at this as a whole. The majority of these grooming gangs are Asian grooming gangs or Muslim grooming gangs. They're the same people and the same demographic that sort of run the Labour Party in the different towns and cities across the UK. The reason why it's being covered up is because a lot of people in high positions, including those in the House of Lords and the House of Commons, are part of this paedophile ring. Now, I don't care. I know I'll probably get a knock on the door here. I mentioned it before. I lived and worked in Afghanistan for several years, and I know that there is a cultural thing that happens. I'm sure you both have heard of it, called Bajabaki, where they get the young boys and they put makeup on them and dresses, and they actually have sex with the young boys. Then what happens is that retard Biden ruins Afghanistan and leaves all his allies there trying to wonder what to do, and then we all have to leave. And as we come over, again, white guilt kicks in, and we decide that we're going to house everyone we work with. Now, bear in mind, we only employed 4,500 LECs, local employed contractors. But we're that guilty that we'll take them on, their families on, their families' families, their families' families, their ancestors. And all of a sudden, we then flood the UK with, 170,000 Afghans. Not bad for employing 4,500 of them. And then we don't know what to do with them. So we stick them all around the towns and villages. And we forget how their culture works, don't we? Because we're quite ignorant. So what happens is young girls and women then started getting raped and groped in those towns and cities, and it's not because the Afghans love doing it or the Muslims love doing it. It's because that's their culture. Women are to be hidden at home. Boys are for play. Women are for birth. And we see it. And the minute we start complaining about it, I did this before, and I was talking live on screen about this, and I had 2 police officers come to my door for a hate crime because we have white guilt, don't we? People phone up and go, Trevor's mentioned that men and Afghans rape kids. Well, they can do. That's what they do. And what happens is they flood the cities and towns of all these dangerous, dangerous people that do not understand how we go around, how we don't marry our 6-year-olds and our 9-year-olds and our 10-year-olds, but in them they do. They don't understand that this isn't what we do in the West. But then we decide, oh, these people are being suppressed by the white people, so what we need to do is we need to start giving them key positions in social. We need to start giving these people key positions in social services, give them key positions in local government, and all of a sudden things start to change. And then whenever someone picks up the phone and goes, "We have someone here that's reporting a crime," no problem, and they hang up, and it doesn't get recorded because the person picking up the phone has been given a DAI job who's come over from Afghanistan. Why would they report on their own? And all of a sudden these crimes start getting hidden up. And it becomes an epidemic of abuse with young girls and young boys. And we try to ignore it. Now, bear in mind, the Labour government, who've let in for years and years and years, the Labour government isn't Labour anymore. It's a foreign party in this country. It's a foreign party with foreign beliefs, foreign cultures. It's not a Christianity culture anymore. So we have a Labour Party filled with Muslims, filled with Asians, filled with Sikhs, filled with Hindus, filled with Jews, all filled. And nobody there is going, this is a Christianity country. Now we have a Labour Party that believes in so many different religions and so many different cultures that it's hard to get things done. Now they're in government. And the guy in charge of Keir Starmer, who used to be the Attorney General, who turned his back on Jimmy Savile, who was the actual guy at the top of the tree whenever the grooming was first reported, and he went, no, I put the phone down. Now, why would he endorse an investigation into getting to the bottom of something that he was in charge of and turned his back on it?
Mm. But the question is, though, why isn't your government then doing something about it? Is it because
Our
you have...
government are filled with Muslims and Sikhs and Hindus. They're not a British government. That's why half of our politicians endorse this type of behaviour.
But
we're
it's
never going to get to the bottom of it.
So really, essentially, what we're seeing in Western civilizations across Western Europe, the UK, Australia, we're seeing a change in culture. We're seeing a change in our values and behaviours, and that runs very, very deep. And the question then, I guess, from my perspective, is it too late? Can we, as white Christian civilizations, which were the base of Western civilization, which are the countries that everyone wants to come to, so there must have been something good about us. Is it too late to regain our Western civilization and culture and values? Because that is that's what's shifting our morals and our values and our ethics. Because I see it all the time. I see videos all the time now of people who are going in and bravely and openly, because as Elon Musk says, we're all the media now, and really showing us cultural differences right at the ground level every single day on the streets and out there in communities as to why some Western civilization and the culture that formed Western civilization is very different. And it's changed. It has absolutely changed.
Oops, let's try another button. There we are, look at that. It works too. We just have, Trevor's got a bit of a bung internet, so we'll come back to him in a second. Jordan, you're in the, again in the snake pit, and we have our state governments, and the governments are very, very bad. In Victoria, crime it's known as the crime city of Australia now. The crime though is with a lot of younger people from a particular African background. That's the lay of the land. They even had to ban the youths from buying machetes, and that did a lot of good. Tell me, how do we combat How do we combat this crime wave if the government won't? I mean, look at you go and attack someone, try and chop them into bits, and then the kid's out on bail in about 12 hours. How do we get your government, your Victorian government, to say enough's enough, start looking after the state instead of just a small group of the state?
Yeah, well, the other day, I think earlier in the week, there was an incident where there was a shooting where a number of people were injured, and I made the comment a bit tongue-in-cheek. I said, "Oh, the government should just ban guns, and that'll fix the problem." Oh wait, the reality is that anybody who wants to commit violent crime and obtain weapons to do so is not going to be dissuaded by any laws the government passes. The government is like a hammer where every problem becomes a nail. They think that simply legislating and this knee-jerk reaction of banning something, and it's not machetes, it's actually knives longer than 20 centimetres, so be careful when you're in your kitchen, you could fall foul of these laws. And I think that the reality is that we've got the answer, and the answer is twofold. Firstly, appropriate, timely consequences for offending. So, and I don't say this as someone sitting in the armchair as a morning after quarterback with no personal experience. Many of your viewers who might have seen me in my TNT appearances and followed my campaign know that I myself have a criminal record, and I had drug and alcohol addiction in my 20s and various offending related to that. So I spent time in prison, and I met a lot of these kind of young people, especially young people from Sudan. I met a number of people in that situation, and many of them had been involved in tribal violence, child soldiering. As Trevor said, they come from a culture where violence is often a solution to perceived loss of face or other disputes. It's a very quick escalation to that. And lo and behold, they're taken as refugees, plonked in the middle of an outer suburban, wasteland with no community infrastructure, no real role models in the community, and no attention paid to how these people are going to take root and grow into our society and become law-abiding, honest citizens, which is the goal of any criminal justice system. That is the goal. The goal, yes, is to punish, and the punishment should happen. It should be swift. It should be commensurate to the offence, and it should be applied equally for all. The rule of law is real and should be applied. But once we've done that, then what next? You can't simply either house people forever at huge cost to the taxpayer, or then just have them go through this revolving door, again, at huge cost over the life cycle of that person. And I know that the importance of education, employment, all of those things are things that the government's paying very little attention to. And the second thing that we should do, in addition to fixing our criminal justice system, is we should be empowering Victorians to defend themselves, either in their home or in the street, where appropriate. So castle law is now being called for in all three of the major eastern states, Queensland, New South Wales and Victoria. We had a vote on introducing a review to look at potentially bringing in castle law, which is the right of a homeowner to use disproportionate force if necessary to defend their home where they're being attacked in their home. And that vote only failed in the Victorian Upper House by one vote. The Libertarian Party here, David Limbrick, was excellent, brought a petition, ran a really successful campaign, and only by one vote that failed. But we've got a state election coming up next year. We've got things like pepper spray. We've got things like making lawful firearm ownership easier, and we've got castle law. And all of these things, it's an easy solution. We don't need to keep giving the police more powers to, detain and to infringe on the rights of Victorians. We don't need to wait for all these things to happen, wait for the government to catch up, because when you need them, they'll be hours away, not minutes. And they now have this when you need us but not the sirens number, which is this really euphemistic way of saying, the cavalry's not on the way. And when they have these pay disputes, like the union disputes with the government, the Victoria Police have actually written on their vans, learn self-defence, which is just insane. It's honest, at least. But, we've got a situation where the government literally, in the debate on that bill, which failed by one vote, the minister and the government were saying, just lay back and think of England, to borrow a phrase from Trevor's countrymen, just be still, run away or curl up in a ball and just hope it's all over soon, and then the police will rock up and tell you you're pretty much at fault and give you an insurance form. So, we are in a position where we need to be taking appropriate steps to deal with these situations and to, make sure the crime and punishment are swift and fit the purpose. And then we also need to be empowering Victorians to actually defend themselves.
Melinda, again, you follow federal politics very closely. What is it with the at the moment? Is the government, and if you look at the opposition too, the Conservatives, Susan Lee, should be laid, changed overnight, but Susan Lee, because I'm trendy, she's not. They're no different. They are no different to
No,
the.
they're absolutely are not. I mean, they're two heads of the same snake. There's no difference at the moment in Australia between our two major parties, and that is absolutely devastating for this country because, of course, in any good democracy, you need strong opposition. And in any good democracy, you need freedom of speech and you need to be able to hear what the majority or the silent majority of Australians are saying, what they're thinking, what they're feeling. And this is absolutely not happening in Australia right now. And Susan Lee, I mean, I hear her last name said so many times so differently, it's hilarious. But she is probably one of the weakest opposition leaders or leader of a party that I've ever seen in my lifetime. And it's very, very devastating for Australia right now because what's happening now is that, of course, the Conservative vote, which is 66% of Australians are Conservative, by the way, 66%. I mean, you can pretty much put your finger on the voice vote, how many people voted for the Labor Party in the last election. It's around 65 to 66% consistently. But what's happening, of course, is because you have such a weak opposition in your major Conservative party, like the Tories, like the Liberal Party, the Conservative vote gets scattered and split. And at the latest CPAC conference that I attended, actually one of the biggest topics of conversation at CPAC was who's our person? Who's our Nigel Farage? Who's our Donald Trump? Who is it going to be in Australia? And look, I understand for the UK, you've got a few more years or a few more years to wait for the Reform Party and for the rising up of the resistance to that changing culture and values that we were talking about earlier. But I mean, who is it in Australia? And I've got to say that is a very, very hot topic amongst Conservatives, particularly in social media, and particularly, you know, you've got a really brilliant party in the Libertarians. You've got Jared Rennick starting People First. Of course, you've got One Nation. You've got all, but what that does is it's the Conservative vote because you don't have a very, very strong singular force to push back against this two-tier policing, this racism, this wokeism, this toxicity that we now have, even though the majority of the country wants to push back against it. And that's the irony. We don't have a democracy because I do believe that fundamentally most Australians are absolutely appalled with what's going on in Victoria. They're appalled with what's going on in the major cities. They're appalled with the racist policies. They're appalled by our racist politicians. I think we're ready. But that's the topic. We've got a weak opposition. Who's going to be?
Yep, I think I think you're dead right about the Australian. I mean, I think even look at the Jordan will probably vouch for that. We'll ask him in a second about the opposition in Victoria. It's like fairy floss. But in the UK, we got Nigel, the celebrity game show host. Hello, I'm Nigel. Hey, thank you very much for joining me. But Nigel Farage, everyone's saying that Reform are going to do this, they're going to do that. I think they're very much like the Australian politicians, but they can't host game shows. Is Nigel, he won't be Prime Minister. I don't think he will do much different. Already he's starting to wind back. Oh, we're not going to give any tax cuts or anything like that until we balance the books. So already he's starting to slip in those little bits there, you know, just to soften the blow in case he is voted for. But however, it depends on, because it's not compulsory, it depends on how many vote for it. And so Trevor, I mean, I know I believe you like Nigel, and you think the Reform could do a lot of good. In reality, do you think, and hand on heart, do you think they will win the next election, or do you think that your fellow citizens will go, oh, it's a bit hard, he's going to win anyway, and we just won't vote?
Great question, actually. Nigel's a showman, isn't he? He's a showman.
He is.
Nigel's the guy that's going to get us to the line. I honestly believe that Reform are going to sweep everywhere. They will become government. They will definitely get over 350 seats. At the minute, the polls are looking like they're going to get 430, 440 seats. So Reform will win the next election. Nigel will get us across the line, but then I think Nigel will then step down. I honestly do, and someone else will take that seat. I'm very lucky that I can send messages directly to Richard Tice. Richard Tice is a great guy. He's a businessman. He knows how to do things, and his connections are off the charts. So Reform will win. Nigel will get us there. Nigel will be replaced by someone else in the Reform Party. And I do believe that we will start to see, yes, we may see more people demonstrate saying they want Nigel off the government. We want this, we want that. But if Nigel doesn't get voted in and his party don't win, honest to God, I see there's no comeback for us. Nigel's our like saviour. His party's our saviour because the Tories are a disgrace. We have sat back like you have in Australia, and we've just seen the two-party rule for about 60 years, and they've got away with whatever they want. There's not a single politician right now that retired from the last government that isn't sitting in a big flush house with at least $1 million in their bank account. They've lined their own pockets. They do it. They will always do it. It's a political thing. You've only got to look how prime ministers act before they get removed. They invest, or should I say, they invest to the local village or town they're going to settle in, and they help them with their infrastructure so that whenever they go to retire in that village, the locals won't lynch them. That's what they do. I mean, Boris did it. I mean, that's what they've all done for years and years. And then they sit back, they have so many connections, and then they wait and bide their time, and they get a job in the shitty EU. And what do they do there when they're in the EU? They go and fight against everything that we have. I mean, so back to your question, Reform are going to win. Nigel will not be the Prime Minister whenever they do win. He will be replaced by someone probably more competent, someone that's not. I mean, Nigel works for GB News. He's a showman. He's a presenter. I mean,
he wants his own game show.
Gone are the days where you had to be impartial. I mean, he's on GB News promoting his little scheme, isn't he? 24/7. So, and it's quite sad to say, but I actually joined Reform Party about 1.5 years ago, and I'm still there at the time being. I'm still there because it's the only way out. If not, we are going to have moths everywhere, and in the morning we're going to have frolic. We're going to have call of prayers in the morning. No, I used to do in Afghan. Whenever I heard the call of prayer, I would shoot the speaker because I was sick of it.
That's right. I'm going to vote for you. If you run? I mean, that's scary. And you were a good
what you're saying, Mike. I really do hear what you're saying, but nothing's perfect. You know, I mean, there. Look, strengths and weaknesses. Nigel Farage, Donald Trump. Let's face it. Every person has got their flaws, and there's no. We can't sort of. We can't sort of say this person's great and put them up on pedestals. And I certainly am not doing that with anybody. However, we have to go and support people that are at least going to try and save Western civilization. We have to at least support those people that are saying that white Christian lives matter, that mass immigration is not working for us, that we do have to deport criminals, that we do have to. I mean, these are the things that, yes, Nigel's got his strengths and weaknesses like every other human being, but Australia still needs someone like that. And America decided very clearly at the last election, with all of his flaws and with what he was saying, and I like Donald Trump, but I don't have him on a pedestal because there's a few things that he's done that I don't like. But at the end of the day, with everything, you've got to say, are we going to save our country? And the Americans said, love or hate Donald Trump, we want to save our country because our country comes first. And we've got to rebuild our economy. We have to look at manufacturing. We have to look at closing these borders because we are being, our crime rates are out of control. Our fentanyl is out of control. The drug use, the open borders have been absolutely devastating. And the Americans said, we're going to save the country. And guess what? This is the guy right here with all of his foibles and flaws and orange hair or whatever. This is the guy that at least has said, I'm going to do this, and has started doing it. And Nigel Farage, I mean, he's the guy that is saying the things that this is the last chance. This is the last hope train. It's a sad thing. But as an Australian, I sit back, and all of my ancestors are English and Scottish, right back through generations. I have no other blood in me. I'm just straight down the English line. And to see what's going on in the UK, there's not one person in Australia now, because it's going mainstream, that isn't starting to get shocked and horrified. Really.
Now, we are running out of time. We can go a bit longer, which I'm going to do at the moment, but I want to ask you all this one question, and tell me if it's true, and then how we can get back what we should have equality. Jordan, in Victoria, we look at the Victorian state government. Do you think that, and I know the answer already, but do you think that we are all equal in Victoria? And if we are not all equal in Victoria, how do we get that back? How do we get back some sort of decency for everybody in that particular state?
Yeah, well, I think the sad truth is that we live in a system and in a world where the rule of law increasingly means less and less. The separation of powers increasingly means less and less, and we are seeing two-tier enforcement at every level of Victorian society. Now, what's the answer to that? I think we have to be realistic. As much as we want there to be a reform-style movement sweeping the state tomorrow, we have to acknowledge that we can see the future in the UK and the US. We can see that sort of 5 to 10 year horizon, but we can't rush the time to get there and go forward. We need to take steps that are going to actually meaningfully improve and control the Labor government that I've no doubt will be re-elected in Victoria, unfortunately, because the Liberal Party are incredibly weak. I think they're going to see their seats reduced. They think they're at rock bottom, but they're just at a sub-basement waiting for the floor to collapse underneath them. And if we had the vote that I mentioned before on Castle Doctrine, losing by one vote in the upper house, if we had 2 or 3 David Limbricks, so we've got one Libertarian in the upper house in Victoria at the moment, if we had 2 or 3 people, David re-elected and another 2 joining him of his calibre, we would see a very, very big change in Victoria in terms of the kind of scrutiny, the kind of proactive defence of rights, and the kind of integrity and consistency in opposition. And we would again, I think, see the Libertarian Party be what it was during the COVID period, and that is the unofficial opposition.
Yeah. Melinda, what do you think?
I think that we're all Australians, and I really...
Trevor's not.
No, but we're all...
Nigel doesn't get in.
We're all Australians in terms of the Victoria, what Jordan's talking about with some of my friends, where I was going with that comment is a couple of my friends go, oh, gee, Victoria, they're really... I said, no, hold on. This is Australia. Victorians are Australians. I mean, you can't be sorry... you can't be thankful that you're not living in Victoria right now, because that's the issue that I've now got. And that's the issue that Victorians have got now. Like, honestly, even though we're all Australians and part of Australia, there are so many people now that go, oh my gosh, oh, isn't it so awful what's happening down there? Oh, thank goodness that we're not living in Victoria. And it's like, well, how does that help our country? I mean, if you can see that going on in Victoria, we've all got to stand up. Because guess what? It's going to happen everywhere, and it is happening. And Victoria is the tip of the iceberg. It's still happening in Sydney, and it's starting to happen a lot in Brisbane too. I mean, this is the thing: it's that we always find excuses to stand back when we're not initially affected, and that's what we've been doing for too long. And now what we're all doing, and we're all sitting here today going, "Look where we are." And that's.
Well, I know we're running out of time, Melinda, and but I would also make the point, in addition to what you've just said very correctly, that if people living in Sydney and Brisbane don't think that Victoria would be like the Greece of Europe and end up dragging Australia down with it when, not if, the inevitable bailout request comes, then I think they're very, very short-sighted indeed.
That's right. I have this debate all the time with people, and I also have this debate when people talk to me about what's going on in the UK. And they're like, oh, gosh, isn't it terrible? Thank goodness we're not living in the UK right now. Oh, isn't it awful? It's like, we should all be worried about this. We should all be standing up for the UK. The citizens of the Western world need to be supporting and standing up for each other and speaking out against it, because guess what? We're following down that path so fast, it's going to make your head spin. I talk to people about this all the time. We're all in the same boat. And we've all got to now understand that we're a global community that has to start really putting ourselves together.
Look, we are again running out of time. Trevor, you're Nigel Farage. You're waiting for the Messiah to make his appearance, something like that, or come on down. But tell me, until Nigel is sitting in the throne, they can't be in the throne. You've got King Charles there. Then you've got all the others. But
He'll be gone.
when he's in his rightful position, up until then, you have problems right now. How do you get back some sort of equality in the UK?
It's difficult, actually. I mean, why did you give me that question? I mean, it's going to be difficult to get back anything here. I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. I go through every day and I just ignore people because people are the drama. So I stay in my bubble. I socialize with my little tiny circle, and I do interviews and I travel. I get there. I don't want to speak to people because the majority of people are stupid and I don't want interaction. So the best thing is vote, attend their functions with reform, promote them, help them, try and change things for the better. I mean, just try and do things for that add value and avoid the riffraff, because at the minute, I mean, in the last 2 years, I've been arrested 7 times, Mike. I've had like 20 crime reports for talking online. I mean, the door, hello. And so I just avoid them. I mean, my solicitor is very, very busy and very, very expensive. And I'm just sick to death of the fact that if I say things which offend people, people seem to think being offended is a crime. It's not a crime to say what you want. It's not a crime to offend people. And people seem to forget that. And I just try my best to move forward, try and be positive. Listen, my ex-wife's really happy. My partner's really happy. My mother's not too happy. Her husband died. But my son's happy. But apart from that, the people in my circle are happy. I lift them up and I move forward. Everything else is just noise, Mike. It's white noise.
Yep, I totally agree. I still don't think Nigel will get in, by the way. That's just my own humble opinion, but you'll keep talking to me, I hope. And by the way, you should take those posters of Nigel down off your bedroom wall.
Can you see them?
Terrible person. And or you could make Jacinta Allen into a dartboard. Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it very, very much. We've laughed a bit and chuckled and sneered and all that sort of stuff, but it is a serious problem, and it's making the UK not a great place anymore. It is going down the gurgler very quickly. Australia is in that race too, and will it get there to the bottom before the UK? Who knows? UK have a Nigel, we've got a Susan Ley. So guess what? It's very depressing. Anyway, thank you very much for joining us on the Protagonist. We'll do more tomorrow. This is the Protagonist on the World Today. Thank you very much, everybody.
Bye. Thank you.